Should all state leaders have to face a broadened COVID inquiry? What about this huge federal surplus? And trouble for Kevin McCarthy in the US. There's a lot to unstitch. Joining me from Bondi Partners is former Howard Government Minister Peter McGauran. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Tim.
Shouldn't Gladys Berejiklian, Anastasia Palaszczuk, Dan Andrews all be fronting this COVID inquiry?
Absolutely, and their senior health advisors, because it was the states that locked people down, imposed curfews, imposed borders, restrictions and the like. So the whole thing is a farce. It's a shock. Politically, it's a shocker for the Albanese government, and he's burning through a lot of political capital on this when every major newspaper in this country editorialises against the nature of the inquiry. Then you've got a problem.
Many of us at the time were rallying against school closures and some of the restrictions that were placed at the time, and we're seeing a mental health crisis because of it.
Agreed, and there's a whole generation of school kids who have not gone back, who are unaccounted for. So look, it's not a matter of burning anyone at the stake, but if we're to have another endemic breakout, then we have to be better prepared for it, and not just in the supply of PPE and vaccines and the like, and financial rescue packages, which is all the inquiry is going to look at.
Now, the surplus, that surprised economists as well, a huge surplus. Obviously, we've still got a massive amount of debt.
Just dumb luck. Coal and gas receipt income is through the roof. Personal income tax is up because there's a lower number of people unemployed, and company profits are up. It's all receipts. Has there been any reform or restructure of the tax system? No. Has there been any productivity gains? No. Has there been giving in to the unions on everything? Yes. Has there been any reduction in government spending? No. So they're a lucky government.
You've always got to euphemise things, so you take it when it comes your way.
Absolutely, look, but the debt's hanging over us.
Absolutely, and it's a huge debt. Yeah, that's
850 billion. The government's got no plan to address it. But then again, no government in the Western world does have a plan to address it. Every country's in the same position because of COVID.
We've seen these ad campaigns rolled out. We're not far away. You and I will always know the date of the referendum because it's the same day to the Everest.
Yes.
Of course, we're marching towards that. But are the government doing a better job selling it?
No. They got off to a good start last Sunday with the mass rallies throughout the country for the yes vote. That gave it impetus for a couple of days, and then we got the accusations of racism and distortion and the abuse started. And it's not all one way, but it seems to be amplified when it comes from yes advocates. Polls open on Monday. It's almost at the point of being irrecoverable, the yes case.
The narrative around Anastasia Palaszczuk just won't go away. And I think that a lot of people look back at the way she sort of pushed some cameras about overseas and saying, is a politician really doing that? What do you think is going to happen in Queensland?
Tim, I think she's got a fighting chance. She's got 12 months. This will test the mettle of the opposition because often these premiers fall across the line at state elections because there's not a credible alternative. She's now regarded as a very weakened and in some ways discredited leader. The opportunities are there. So if the Liberal National Party doesn't step up, there's every chance she'll survive. She's tough as nails. She's digging in. She's not going to be undermined or challenged by her own party because their own fortunes are now tied to hers. So I wouldn't call it at this early stage, but she has a chance.
It is an interesting one when you look at it and look at some of the leaders that were in place during COVID. Most of them are gone. It's almost like it's a reminder of a dark time, an overexposure of politicians. I mean, obviously, Dan Andrews is still there in Victoria, Anastasia Palaszczuk in Queensland. But they're the last two standing, really.
They are. Morrison's gone, Western Australia, South Australia, New South Wales. You're right. A number of their exits were unrelated to COVID, but overall I agree that they were overexposed.
Yeah. Josh Frydenberg, elevation at Goldman Sachs, does that mean he's out of play?
Yes.
Or does this mean he'll go off for a year and come back?
No, he's out of play. at least for the near future, which is a great loss to public life in Australia, because like or not the Liberal Party, he's one of the shining stars. He's dedicated, he's competent, he's got personality. The Liberals in Victoria will be very disappointed because he could win a seat in Melbourne, not necessarily his old seat, but he'd certainly win another one. But 18 months being forced out of public life, he's discovered his family life, a business career. It reminds me very much of the loss of Peter Costello under almost identical circumstances.
Still very young though, isn't he? In relative terms, 52, politically tuned in.
Yes, but we don't have a tradition of coming back, Tim. Yeah, I agree. He's young, and maybe in 4 or 5 years he could come back. But would he want to? Would the party want him? You know, politics is ever evolving and at a fast pace. And once you leave, the assumption is you're yesterday's man.
What about the politics in the US? Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
It was a long, protracted process for him to get the job. And now he's really facing the challenges of this little right-wing, extreme right-wing pocket.
Look, I'm glad you're focusing on it, Tim, because Australian media don't focus on the Congress, which is critical to the economic and political fortunes of the US. So Kevin McCarthy is a Californian Republican, which is already raises suspicions amongst Texans and Florida and Republicans. But he's only got a majority of 12, and there's a hardcore that is ideological, impossible to deal with. The only thing is they force Kevin McCarthy to the brink and have till now supported him, but I wouldn't want his job. Every day he wakes up, his battle is with his rump, not with the Democrats.
Up north, Canadian accusation against India's involvement with the murder of a Sikh nationalist in Vancouver. This is a huge story, really.
Oh, huge story, Tim. This is very worrying. Canada, in effect, is accusing India of state-sponsored murder because a leading Sikh dissident has been murdered in Vancouver, and the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has said that there is creditable intelligence that India may have been involved. Now, how's that for a heavily qualified accusation? So if he's not 100% sure that it's the Indian Secret Service, then he should not even be raising it. India is critical to the West's security and economic interests. And it's going to drag the US and Australia, who are close allies through the Quad of India. So we can't support any country that would murder its citizens in a friendly country, but it's far from a proven accusation at this stage. We don't know, we may never know, but Justin Trudeau had better be handling this with great aplomb.
Finally, staying international and another huge country, China, of course. We're running a story this morning saying that things could have eased around wine, and this is huge for Australian winemakers who, for so long, were sending their wine to China and then the door was shut.
Oh, they were devastated, Tim. Of all of the commodities, it was wine that was smashed. Coal, barley, and some of the other commodities, lobsters, they did find alternate markets. Now, but wine just was lost 2/3 of their sales around the world overnight, and it was hard to find an alternate market for Australian wines because it takes many, many years to build up a reputation in Europe or in Asia or North America. They'll be very careful about going in. They're not going to. No one will sacrifice the alternate market they've developed. It is good news. It is typical China as a face saver to dribble out this news. It sounds as if it's going to happen, which is great news for Australian wine producers, but it's not going to be a gold rush. It'll be a slow restoration of their market interests.
Yeah, a positive step though, hopefully, for all those hard working in the industry, because it does employ a lot of people in this country. Good to see you.
Thanks, Tim.